The Toronto Raptors have gotten a lot of negative press over the past couple years. Not long ago, the Raps were a perennial playoff team and even won a title in 2019. But since then, their core has been broken apart and the team has struggled mightily. Last year, in Darko Rajakovic's first season as head coach, the team lost more games than they had in over a decade. Worst part is they didn't even benefit from losing so many games because they traded their first-round pick to the Spurs in exchange for Jakob Poeltl. The Poeltl trade is considered a disastrous blunder at this point, but in reality, how bad was the trade actually? Truthfully, it's hard to assess because we have no clue who the Raptors would have selected at 8th overall. President Masai Ujiri has a history of selecting well, so obviously giving him opportunities to pick in the lottery is beneficial. This year, Rob Dillingham, a skilled scoring guard out of Kentucky, went 8th, and at this point, I bet the Raptors fans would have loved to have a player like him on the roster instead of a boring veteran like Poeltl. Yet there's no indication that Dillingham will ever become a more useful piece than Poeltl is, and will be for the next few seasons. The 8th overall pick is far from a gimme. After doing some research, we realized that since the year 2000, not a single 8th overall pick has ever been voted to an All-Star game. The best players selected at the spot have been guys like Franz Wagner, Colin Sexton, Rudy Gay, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And plenty of players like Nick Stauskas, Stanley Johnson, and Frank Ntilikina were drafted in the 8th spot with as much hype as Dillingham, but never panned out. Poeltl isn't a star either, and he's not on a rookie contract, but he's an extremely efficient 7-footer who can defend, rebound, and pass. He won't be an all-star, but he's fully equipped to play a significant role in a Raptors system that relies heavily on utilizing big men at the top of the key as passers in Rajakovic's offense. The negativity revolving around the trade and the fact that the team has lost players like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby via trade and free agency over the past couple of years has actually overshadowed the shrewd moves that Ujiri and the Raps have made. The Raptors now have their best 3 players, Scottie Barnes, Barrett, and Immanuel Quickley, locked up to multi-year contracts, and we think that this big 3 could develop into one of the most underrated and well-rounded cores in the league. The headliner of the 3 is Scottie Barnes, who's one of the most unique young specimens in the league and is likely going to develop into a true superstar. Barnes isn't an elite scorer. This past season at age 22, he averaged a decimal point under 20 per game, but he literally does everything on the floor at a very high level. His near 20 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, a 3, and a block per game is practically unheard of. Actually, the only other player in league history to post those stats across the board was LeBron for the Lakers in 2022. Barnes was voted as an All-Star last season, but we still don't feel like he gets enough recognition since his game isn't as predicated on scoring as some other young hoopers. For example, let's compare Barnes' numbers last season to Orlando Magic's young star Paolo Banchero. Banchero is a former first overall pick who led the Magic to the playoffs and is probably viewed as a superior player to Barnes in most circles. And don't get us wrong, we love what Banchero brings. In a previous video, we discussed that he could develop into an MVP candidate over the next decade. But if you compare Barnes and Banchero's stats last season outside of points, Barnes put up superior numbers across the board. Banchero's usage was higher, but Barnes was far more efficient in practically every facet of the game. When it comes to rudimentary metrics, you can see Banchero scored more points per game, but Barnes outproduced him in rebounds and assists per game. Banchero attempted more threes, but Barnes made more per game. Barnes recorded more steals and more blocks, and he shot a higher percentage from 2, from 3, and from the line. The deeper you dig, the more the edge goes to Barnes. Barnes scored higher in player efficiency rating, he had a better box plus minus, scored higher in value over replacement player, improved more win shares over 48 minutes of play. Keep in mind, Barnes is a year older than Banchero, which makes a big difference considering they're so young, but still the numbers speak for themselves. And the best thing is Barnes is still going to keep improving. This guy's going to develop into the greatest Raptor star in history if they can retain him, in our opinion. Barnes might not be the most consistent scorer, but that's okay because the Raps' other stars will fill that void in that category. Since the Raptors acquired Barrett, the former 3rd overall pick seems to have broken out. His numbers have improved across the board, and he's continued his ascension during the Olympics, where he's dominating the court for Team Canada. Barrett's always had the tools to perform, but was overshadowed by other ball-dominant priorities when he was on the Knicks. Now, as he's coming into his own, it's likely that he can lead the Raptors in scoring and develop into a potential all-star. His 3-point improvements are noticeable, but we think what'll take him to another level will be learning to cut and score while playing off Barnes. Barrett's a long wing with a lot of skill. Some extra power and aggressiveness could make Barnes and Barrett a very forceful pair for the Raps. The 3rd potential star of the Raps is Immanuel Quickley. The 6'3" guard brings ideal size, speed, and quickness to the point guard position, but isn't as elite a facilitator as the best players at his position. Once again, that'll be okay considering Barnes is such a willing passer as a point forward. Quickley has developed into a wicked three-point shooter. His numbers at age 24 compare closely to players like Jamal Murray and CJ McCollum. Having him as an attacker and a floor spacer will be very difficult to guard. And outside of those three players, the Raps have been busy adding others who will fit their system. They drafted Jacoby Walter, a freshman out of Baylor with some of the best shooting skills in the draft, 1 year after they drafted Grady Dick, another pure shooter who played at Kansas. The Raps traded for Davion Mitchell, a defensive point guard who won a national title at Baylor and could potentially offer more value at the NBA level than he has thus far with the Kings. They retained Bruce Brown for another season, a weird guard who doesn't shoot particularly well but can pass, drive, cut, and defend. And they traded a first-round pick for Kelly Olynyk, a unique veteran that can shoot and pass like a two-guard, but has the size and footwork to compete on the interior as well. And Ochai Agbaji, a powerful 6'5" wing who excels at cutting and won a title with Kansas. We really like their depth and how it might mesh. There will be competition battles, and not every player will pan out. We're not even expecting the Raptors to turn things around in the immediate future. But their roster makeup matches their coaching philosophy, and their best players are still young. We think the team will battle for a play-in spot this season, and will be back in contention in the East a few seasons down the road. But we want to know what you guys think. Did you like the moves the Raptors made this offseason? And what do you expect their rotation to look like? Let us know in the comments section, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more sports news and insights. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.